Everybody and their mom knew Cowboys Niners was going to get the red carpet treatment. How could it not? But let's give a little bit of love to a matchup that you didn't see coming as an interesting one for week 5. Let's just be honest. A game between teams that seem to be heading in the opposite direction. Houston Texans traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. I just said it. Houston, winners of 2 in a row after starting 0-2. CJ Stroud looking like the truth. Atlanta Falcons jump out to a 2-0 start. They've lost their last 2 in pretty ugly fashion, I might add. Just 1 touchdown in their last 2 outings. What's going to give? And I think it's especially interesting because, no offense, Falcons, let's give the Houston Texans some shine. This was a team that fought for the #1 overall pick last year. They drafted CJ Stroud #2 overall. They earned every bit of that high draft position. They get Will Anderson out of the top 5 of the draft as well. And I think most people said, okay, cool, D'Amico Ryans, we like it. CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, we like it. We'll check in with this team in 2024 and see where they're at. I don't know very many people that thought of them more as mildly interesting. And here we are with CJ Stroud playing out of his mind, most yards by a rookie through the first month of his season since Cam Newton, MVP, former MVP of the league, putting up big time points and doing it against teams that we think highly of. I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the AFC South. They have Trevor Lawrence, a lot of people with high expectations for them. They smacked them down by 20 points a couple weeks ago. Then they follow that up against Pittsburgh, a team with an NFL Defensive Player of the Year in TJ Watt, a very long tenured, very successful head coach in Mike Tomlin, a team that a lot of people saw as a sneaky wild card contender. They smacked them down last week. Probably, I think, the most surprising result of week 4, not just that Houston beat Pittsburgh, but just completely dominated them in a 30-6 game. So now what do you do with it, Texans? You're not sneaking up on anybody. You're not off the radar. You're being featured here on a national NFL podcast. Can you deal with the expectations of people being excited to watch you play? It's one thing for CJ Stroud to ball and nobody notices it until the next morning. But I think this is a game that a lot of people are going to have eyeballs on. I can't wait to see how they respond to that type of attention. I think it's a good week for them. It sounds like the Texans offensive line might finally resemble what it was supposed to. Laramie Tunsil, the Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber left tackle, getting back to practice. Right tackle Titus Howard getting back to practice. Hopefully both of those guys play. But I'll give the Texans credit of saying, even when their offensive line was looking like a game of who's who, like, oh, who's that guy? Is he wearing like a white undershirt or a red one? I don't know who that is. They were still able to put up 30 points in consecutive weeks. I think it's going to look a lot better if those guys can play. Falcons have 7 sacks and just 63 pressures on the season as a defense. Quick, outside of Grady Jarrett, name a Falcons pass rusher. The average fan probably can't. Only 9 teams in the league have fewer than 63 pressures on the season, puts them firmly in the bottom half of the league. Falcons have had a terrible sack differential for years at this point. Other teams are good at getting their guy on the ground. They're not so good at getting home. For my money, just off the dome, I don't think the Falcons have had a premier edge rusher since that one year that Vic Beasley put together, which feels like a lifetime ago. Falcons, big week for Desmond Ridder. Struggled last week in London against Jacksonville. Turned the ball over 3 times. A lot of grumbling about whether he's the guy. Not sure that Taylor Heinicke is a long-term solution, but I do think if Desmond Ridder keeps playing that way, Arthur Smith eventually won't have a choice but to make a move. So this is a big spot for him going against D'Amico Ryans' defense. Falcons are favored. So maybe by the way I'm talking, I'll come right out and say it. I'm excited to watch the Texans. I expect the Texans to win this game, but the Falcons are favored. Maybe some of that is by virtue of being at home, but this is a week-to-week league, and that's what makes this intriguing. Are we going to see a team closer to the Falcons team that won 2 straight at the start of the season, overcame a 4th quarter deficit against Green Bay, or are we going to see more of this very inept-looking offense who can't get anything going in the passing game? I do want to highlight my old buddy from Dallas, Dalton Schultz, Texans tight end. I'm feeling a good game from him. It's been a slow start to the season for Dalton since he signed in Houston over the offseason. He did have his best game against Pittsburgh, 3 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. The Falcons quietly deserve credit for having, I think, a better secondary than people know. Jesse Bates, premier signing in the offseason. He's playing like one of the best safeties in the league, which he is. AJ Terrell, an incredibly AJ Terrell. I'm sorry, AJ. You're a phenomenal player. But the Falcons have been susceptible to good games from tight ends. Sam Laporta, week 3, Detroit, goes 8 for 84 and a touchdown against the Falcons. Week 1, and we know now what a mess the Carolina Panthers offense is. Week 1, Hayden Hurst for Carolina gets 541 and a touchdown against Atlanta. So I think the matchups are favorable in the middle of the field. I don't know how much the Texans, Nico Collins is out to an amazing start this season, but I think the Falcons have the horses to shut some of those explosive plays down from the receiver core. Maybe this is a game where Dalton Schultz looks more like the guy we remember from Dallas. I'm really excited to see this one. I think the Texans get out of this with a road win, but it is a more intriguing matchup than maybe my Texans excitement suggests. It's a week-to-week league and a narrative league. We're hot on the Texans right now. All it would take is Desmond Ridder playing a good game and getting this win, and we're back excited about a surprising and impressive Falcons team. I can't wait to see which way it goes.